The bass thundered through Chioma's chest as she stumbled toward the club's exit, her vision swimming from one too many soju shots. She told herself she'd only have 2 drinks, just enough to take the edge off another exhausting week of teaching English to bored Korean teenagers while juggling her daughter Ada's school schedule, bills, and the constant ache of doing it all alone. But 2 had become 4, and 4 had become... Well, she'd lost count somewhere around the time her friends had dragged her onto the dance floor. "I need air," she mumbled, waving off her friend Minji's concerned expression. "Just 5 minutes. I'll be right back." The alley behind Club Eden was dimly lit, the kind of place her mother would have warned her about if she were still alive. Chioma leaned against the cool brick wall, letting the autumn soul air clear her head. She could hear muffled music and laughter from inside, the sound of people who didn't have to wake up at 6 a.m. to pack a 7-year-old's lunch before racing across the city. She was fishing her phone from her clutch when she heard it. The unmistakable sound of flesh meeting flesh, followed by a low groan of pain. Chioma froze. Every survival instinct screamed at her to walk away, to pretend she'd heard nothing. But then came another sound. A younger voice, pleading in Korean. "Please, I'll get the money. Just give me 1 more week." The response was cold, measured. "You said that last week. Mr. Kong doesn't do extensions." Chioma's curiosity, that same reckless curiosity that had gotten her into trouble all her life, pulled her toward the commotion. She peered around the corner into a darker section of the alley. 3 men surrounded a 4th who was on his knees, blood dripping from his nose. 2 of the standing men were clearly muscle, broad-shouldered, tattoos creeping up their necks. But it was the 3rd man who made Chioma's breath catch. He stood apart from the violence, immaculately dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Even in the shadows, she could see the sharp line of his jaw, the way he held himself with the casual confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. He was watching the beating with the detached interest of someone observing a mildly interesting insect. Then his eyes shifted, locked onto hers. Chioma's heart stopped. She should have run, should have ducked back around the corner and pretended she'd seen nothing. Instead, she stood there like a deer in headlights as he studied her with those dark, calculating eyes. He said something in rapid Korean to his men. They immediately stopped, hauling the debtor to his feet. The man in the suit started walking toward her, and Chioma's feet finally remembered how to move. She spun on her heel, rushing back toward the club entrance, her pulse hammering in her ears. "Wait!" The command was soft but absolute. Chioma's traitorous feet stopped moving. "You're not Korean." His English was perfect, barely accented. He'd followed her to the mouth of the alley, standing just close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive, woody, intoxicating. Very observant. Chioma shot back, her Nigerian boldness overriding her common sense. "Are you going to beat me up now for seeing your little... whatever that was?" Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, maybe. "No." "Then can I go?" "No." Chioma turned to face him fully, crossing her arms. The alcohol in her system was making her braver than she had any right to be. "Listen, sir, I have to get back to my friends. And I didn't see anything. Okay? Just a bunch of guys having a conversation. A very aggressive conversation. With fists. What's your name? Why do you want to know?" "Because I'm going to find out anyway. You can tell me now, or I can have my men follow you home." He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. Chioma's stomach churned. But she refused to show fear. "Chioma. And before you ask, no, I don't owe anyone money. I'm not involved in anything illegal. And I really need to get back inside before my friends call the police looking for me." "Chioma." He tested her name on his tongue, like he was tasting wine. "You're Nigerian." Again, very observant. "Did you go to detective school? Or is this just natural talent?" That almost smile again. "I like you. Congratulations. Can I go now?" Instead of answering, he stepped closer. Chioma's back hit the wall. When had she backed up? And suddenly he was right there, close enough that she could see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow, the way his hair fell perfectly across his forehead. "I'm having you tonight," he said simply. "For myself." Chioma's mouth fell open. The sheer audacity of this man, this criminal, because that's clearly what he was staggering. Excuse me? You heard me. He placed one hand on the wall beside her head, caging her in. What club are you in? I'll have a private room prepared. You'll have a... Chioma laughed, the sound sharp and slightly hysterical. You actually think I'm going to just... What, follow you to some private room because you decided you want me? Who the hell do you think you are? Kong Miho. He said it like it should mean something. Should I know that name? His expression shifted, not quite surprise, but close. You really don't know who I am. Should I? Are you famous or something? A K-pop star who beats people up in alleys for fun. This time he actually smiled. A real one that transformed his entire face. Something like that. Well, Kong Miho, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to walk back into that club, finish my night with my friends, and go home to my daughter. You're going to stay here and do whatever it is mafia bosses do in Seoul on a Thursday night. And we're never going to see each other again. Sound good? She tried to duck under his arm, but his other hand came up, blocking her escape without actually touching her. You have a daughter. Yes, and she's the reason I'm not going to end up as a headline in the Korea Times. Single mother found dead after rejecting mafia boss. No thank you. I'm not going to hurt you, right? Because the guy beating the hell out of someone 30 seconds ago is definitely trustworthy. He owed money. And that makes it okay? Miho tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. You're drunk, observant, and a genius. Your mother must be so proud. Give me your number. Absolutely not. Then I'll find you anyway. Seoul is smaller than you think for people like me. Chioma felt a chill run down her spine. He wasn't threatening her. Not exactly. But the certainty in his voice suggested he meant every word. Why? Why me? There are plenty of women in that club who would probably jump at the chance to go home with you. Because you're interesting. And because you looked at me like I was an insect you wanted to squash. Not a god you wanted to worship. He leaned in closer, and Chioma's breath hitched. I find that refreshing. Well, go refresh yourself with someone else. I have enough problems without adding criminal boyfriend to the list. I never said boyfriend, right? Because that makes it better. They stared at each other for a long moment, neither willing to back down. Chioma could hear Minji calling her name from inside the club, concern evident in her voice. I have to go, Chioma said firmly, and you need to accept that not everyone is going to fall at your feet just because you snap your fingers. She pushed past him. He let her this time, and made it 3 steps before he called out, This isn't over, Chioma from Nigeria. She didn't turn around, didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing how much he'd rattled her. But as she rejoined her friends, accepting Minji's worried questions with a wave and a lie about needing to throw up, she couldn't shake the feeling of his eyes on her back. Couldn't shake the certainty that he'd meant what he said. Later that night, after she'd caught a taxi home and checked on Ada, her daughter sleeping peacefully in her bed, her braids spread across the pillow like a halo, Chioma stood in her tiny bathroom and stared at her reflection. You're being paranoid, she told herself. Seoul has 10 million people. He's not actually going to find you. But she knew that was a lie. Men like Kong Miho didn't make idle threats. And the worst part, the part that kept her awake long after she should have been asleep, was the tiny, traitorous part of her mind that whispered, what if he does? 3 days later, Chioma was running late, which was becoming her permanent state of being. Ada had decided that morning that her school uniform made her look like a boring penguin, which had led to a 20-minute negotiation that Chioma had ultimately lost. Now her daughter was wearing the uniform with a bright pink headband that definitely violated the school's dress code, and Chioma was racing across Gangnam with her hair still damp from the world's fastest shower. Mommy, you said a bad word, Ada observed from the back seat of the taxi. Mommy's sorry, baby. We're just really, really late. You always say that. Chioma couldn't argue. Between her teaching schedule, Ada's school and taekwondo classes, and trying to maintain some semblance of a social life, she was constantly 10 minutes behind where she needed to be. Her ex-husband had never understood that. Had never understood any of it, actually. He'd expected her to manage everything while he worked late at the office, which she discovered meant sleeping with his secretary. The memory still stung, even a year later. Not because she missed him, she'd realized she was better off alone, but because of what it had cost her. pride, security, the naive belief that someone would actually have her back. She paid the taxi driver and hustled Ada into the elementary school, signing her in late for the third time that week. The receptionist, Mrs. Kim, gave her a look that clearly said, "Get your life together." But Chioma was too tired to care. By the time she made it to the language academy where she taught, she had exactly 90 seconds to spare. She burst into the teacher's lounge, grabbed her materials, and was halfway to her classroom when she ran directly into someone's chest. Strong hands caught her arms, steadying her. Careful. Chioma looked up and felt her soul leave her body. Kong Miho stood in the middle of the language academy, looking completely out of place in his designer suit and expensive watch. He smiled down at her like they were old friends. "Hello. Chioma from Nigeria." "What, how?" She jerked back from his grip, looking around wildly. Her co-teacher Jenny was staring at them with undisguised curiosity. The academy director, Mr. Park, was emerging from his office with an expression of extreme nervousness. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting my investment." "Your what?" Mr. Park approached them with the kind of careful politeness people reserved for armed bombs. "Miss Chioma, I see you've met Mr. Kong. He's our new partner. He acquired a majority stake in the academy last week." Chioma's stomach dropped. "He what?" "I told you Seoul was smaller than you think," Miho said, clearly enjoying her shock. "This is insane. You can't buy an entire language academy just to—" She stopped, realizing they had an audience. Several students were peeking out of classrooms, and Jenny looked like she might combust from curiosity. Miho's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Just to what?" "I have a class," Chioma said through gritted teeth. "Excuse me." She tried to move past him, but he caught her wrist gently. "Dinner. Tonight." "No. I'm your boss now. Technically, I could make it mandatory." Chioma yanked her arm free, her Nigerian temper flaring. "You want to fire me? Go ahead. I can find another job. What I won't do is let some entitled rich boy with a superiority complex think he can buy his way into my life." She stormed past him into her classroom, slamming the door with perhaps more force than necessary. Her students, a group of high school kids preparing for university entrance exams, stared at her with wide eyes. "Miss Chioma?" One of them ventured carefully. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Everyone, open your textbooks to page 47. We're doing conversation practice today, and I need someone to roleplay rejecting unwanted advances. Any volunteers?" The class erupted in nervous laughter, but Chioma barely heard it. Her hands were shaking as she wrote on the whiteboard, her mind racing. He'd bought the academy. Actually bought it. What kind of person did that? The kind who beats people in alleys, her brain supplied helpfully. The kind you should be running from, not teaching English to teenagers in the building he now owns. The lesson passed in a blur. Chioma went through the motions mechanically, her smile feeling painted on. When the bell finally rang, she gathered her materials and prepared to make a run for it. Miho was waiting outside her classroom. "You're persistent. I'll give you that," Chioma said, not slowing down as she headed for the lounge. He fell into step beside her easily. "You're stubborn. Funny. My ex said the same thing right before he cheated on me with someone more agreeable." She hadn't meant to say that, but the words slipped out anyway. Miho's expression darkened. "He cheated on you? Not your business. Where is he now?" "Lagos, hopefully getting everything he deserves." "Why? You gonna fly to Nigeria and beat him up for me?" She laughed, but it came out bitter. "I can fight my own battles, thanks." "I don't doubt that." They reached the lounge and he held the door open for her. A surprisingly courteous gesture from a man who'd threatened to have her followed. "But that doesn't mean you should have to." Chioma set her bag down and turned to face him fully. The lounge was empty, thank God, because she was about to absolutely lose it. "What do you want from me? Seriously, you saw me drunk at a club, decided you wanted me like I was some kind of prize, and now you've bought my workplace? That's not romantic, that's terrifying." "Is it?" He moved closer and she hated how her heart rate picked up. "Or is it just uncomfortable, because you're not used to someone pursuing you?" "Pursuing? This is stalking. I prefer determined. I prefer restraining order." He smiled. Actually smiled, like she was entertaining him. Have dinner with me. One meal. If you still hate me afterward, I'll back off. You'll back off? Just like that. I'm many things, Chioma, but I'm not a monster, despite what you saw in that alley. That's exactly why I shouldn't have dinner with you. You're dangerous. So are you. He said it seriously, like he meant it. Do you know what you did the other night? You looked at me, really looked at me, and you weren't afraid. You were annoyed. People aren't annoyed at me. They're terrified, or they're trying to use me, or they're pretending I don't exist. But you, he shook his head, something like wonder in his expression. You told me to go refresh myself with someone else. Despite everything, Chioma felt her lips twitch. I did say that, didn't I? You did. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. About you. He took another step closer, and this time she didn't back away. One dinner. Bring your daughter if it makes you feel safer. That stopped her cold. You want me to bring Ada? You said she's why you turned me down. I want to meet the person who's more important than everything else in your life. He paused. I understand that. Family is everything. There was something in his voice, a rawness she hadn't expected. For just a moment, the polished Mafia boss facade cracked, and she saw something underneath. Loneliness, maybe, or understanding. You have family? She asked before she could stop herself. Had. My father built everything I have now. He died when I was 19. Miho's jaw tightened. I've been alone since then, running his empire, making sure his legacy doesn't crumble. It's exhausting. Chioma softened despite herself. She knew exhausting, knew alone. One dinner. His eyes widened slightly, like he hadn't expected her to agree. Really? One. Somewhere public. And Ada comes. Those are my terms. Deal. He pulled out his phone. Give me your number. The real one this time. I never gave you a fake one. Only because you never gave me any number. Fair point. Chioma recited her number, watching as he saved it under Chioma from Nigeria, instead of just her name. You're really going to keep calling me that? Until you give me a reason to call you something else. He pocketed his phone, then did something unexpected. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. Thank you for giving me a chance. Don't make me regret it. I'll try my best. After he left, Chioma sank into one of the lounge chairs and put her head in her hands. What had she just agreed to? Dinner with a mafia boss and her 7-year-old daughter. Her mother would have had a heart attack. Her friends would think she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll pick you up. And Chioma? Where whatever makes you feel comfortable. This isn't about impressing me. You've already done that. She stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. If you're planning to kidnap us, just know that Ada knows Taekwondo, and I know how to scream very loudly. His response was immediate. Noted. See you tomorrow. That night, as she was tucking Ada into bed, her daughter looked up at her with those two knowing eyes. Mommy, are you going to date someone? Chioma's hand froze mid-braid. What? No. Why would you think that? Because you keep looking at your phone and smiling. You only do that when Auntie Minji sends funny videos. But you're not laughing. You're doing the other kind of smile. What other kind? The nervous kind. Like when you had to meet my teacher and you were worried she'd say I was bad. Out of the mouths of babes. Chioma finished the braid and kissed Ada's forehead. Someone asked us to have dinner with him tomorrow. Is that okay with you? Is he nice? I don't know yet. That's what dinner is for. To find out. Ada considered this with the seriousness of a judge. Will there be ice cream? Probably. Then okay. But if he's mean, I'll kick him. Subumnam says I have a very strong kick now. Chioma laughed, pulling her daughter close. My fierce protector. What would I do without you? Be lonely, Ada said simply. Like how you were after Daddy left. But then you got happy again. You're better when you're happy, Mommy. Tears pricked Chioma's eyes. How did her 7-year-old have more emotional intelligence than most adults? I love you, baby girl. Love you too. Can we have pancakes tomorrow? Sure, baby. Pancakes it is. As Chioma left Ada's room and prepared for her own bed, She couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to get a lot more complicated. Kang Miho wasn't just any man. He was dangerous, powerful, and apparently determined to insert himself into her carefully constructed world. The smart thing would be to cancel tomorrow, to tell him she'd made a mistake and he should find someone else to pursue. But Chioma had never been very good at doing the smart thing. And besides, Ada had already approved, provided there was ice cream involved. Tomorrow, she decided. Tomorrow she'd figure out what Kang Miho really wanted. And if he turned out to be trouble, well, she'd dealt with plenty of trouble before. She was Nigerian, a single mother in Seoul, and tougher than she looked. If Kang Miho thought she was interesting now, he had no idea what he was in for. Chioma changed her outfit 4 times before Ada finally said, "Mommy, you look pretty in all of them. Just pick one so we're not late." She settled on a yellow dress, bright, confident, very much her, and did her makeup just enough to look like she'd made an effort but not like she was trying too hard. Ada wore her favorite pink dress with sneakers, because fancy shoes hurt my feet, Mommy, and I'm not suffering for anyone. The girl had a point. At exactly 7 p.m., Chioma's phone buzzed. He was outside. "Okay, baby, remember." Chioma knelt down to Ada's level. "If anything feels wrong, or if you don't like him, you tell me immediately. We can leave anytime you want." "Mommy, you're being weird again." "I'm being careful. Is he a bad guy?" Chioma hesitated. "I don't know yet." "Then let's go find out." The confidence of children. Chioma wished she could bottle it and drink it like wine. They walked downstairs to find not a regular car, but a black sedan with tinted windows. The kind of car that screamed, "Someone important is inside," or "Someone dangerous." Miho stepped out as they approached, and Chioma had to admit, he cleaned up well. He traded the suit for dark jeans and a simple black button-down, like he'd actually listened when she said to not make this feel like a business meeting. His hair was slightly less perfect than before, and he looked younger, more human. Then his eyes landed on Ada, and his entire expression softened. "You must be Ada," he said, crouching down to her level. "I'm Miho. Your mom told me you know Taekwondo." Ada nodded seriously. "I'm a yellow belt. I can break boards and everything." "That's impressive. I did Taekwondo when I was young too." "What belt did you get?" "Black belt. But that was a long time ago." Ada's eyes widened with respect. "Mommy, he's a black belt." "I heard, baby." Chioma watched this exchange with a mixture of surprise and suspicion. He was good with kids, too good. Or maybe he was just genuinely trying. Miho stood and met Chioma's eyes. "You look beautiful. You look less like you're about to murder someone." Ada gasped. "Mommy." "Sorry, baby. Adult joke." Chioma gave Miho a pointed look. "Shall we?" The restaurant he chose was unexpected. Not some fancy, exclusive place that would have intimidated Ada, but a family-style Korean barbecue restaurant in Itaewon. The kind with plastic stools and ajumas who treated everyone like their grandchildren. "I thought about taking you somewhere fancy," Miho explained as they settled into a booth. "But I figured Ada might prefer somewhere she could actually enjoy the food." "You figured right." Chioma was grudgingly impressed. "Though I'm surprised you know places like this exist. My father used to bring me to places like this. Before." He trailed off, glancing at Ada. "Before things got complicated." The food arrived in waves: banchan, marinated meats, lettuce wraps. Ada dove in with the enthusiasm of someone who definitely inherited her mother's appetite. Miho showed her how to make proper Sam wraps, and Chioma found herself relaxing despite her determination to stay on guard. "So," Chioma said after Ada had demolished her 3rd wrap, "you're a businessman, among other things." "What other things?" "Mommy, this is so good," Ada interrupted, sauce on her chin. "Can we come here every week?" "We'll see, baby." Miho grabbed a napkin and gently wiped Ada's face, a gesture so natural that Chioma's breath caught. When was the last time someone had helped with Ada like that? When was the last time someone had just been there? "I invest in various businesses," Miho continued, his attention back on Chioma. "Import-export, real estate, entertainment." The language academy was actually a legitimate purchase. "I've been diversifying." "From what?" His expression darkened slightly. "Things I'm not proud of. Things I inherited rather than chose. The guy in the alley. He owed money to people who don't forgive debts. I was there to negotiate. With your fists. Sometimes that's the only language people understand. He met her eyes. I'm not going to lie to you, Chioma. My world isn't clean. It's not pretty. But I'm trying to change that. Slowly. Why? Because I'm tired. The admission seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised her. Tired of violence. Tired of fear. Tired of being the person everyone either hates or pretends to love because they're terrified of me. Is that why you approached me? Because I wasn't afraid. Partly. But mostly because you looked at me like I was a person, not a monster or a meal ticket. Do you know how rare that is? Before Chioma could respond, Ada tugged on Miho's sleeve. Mr. Miho, do you have kids? No, I don't. Why not? Ada. Chioma started, but Miho held up a hand. It's okay. He turned to Ada seriously. I never met the right person, and my job is complicated. It wouldn't be fair to have a family when I can't always be there for them. That's what my daddy said, Ada replied matter-of-factly. But he lied. He just didn't want to be there. The adults exchanged a look over her head. Chioma's throat tightened. Baby. It's okay, Mommy. You told me sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. Daddy made a bad choice. She turned back to Miho. Are you going to make a bad choice with my mommy? The directness of children. Miho looked floored. No, he said finally. I'm going to try very hard not to. Good. Because she cries sometimes when she thinks I'm asleep. I don't like when she cries. Ada. Chioma's face burned with embarrassment. What? It's true. Miho reached across the table and took Chioma's hand. Not possessively, just gently. I won't make you cry. I promise. You can't promise that, Chioma said quietly. No one can. Then I promise to try. And if I do hurt you, you have permission to have your daughter kick me with her very strong taekwondo kick. That startled a laugh out of her. Deal. The rest of dinner passed easier. Ada asked Miho approximately 700 questions about everything from his favorite color, black, apparently, to whether he liked spicy food. Yes, but not as much as Chioma, who dumped Gachuguru on everything, to what kind of car he drove. A boring one? But I used to have a motorcycle. You ride motorcycles? Chioma asked, trying to imagine this polished man on a bike. Used to. My father made me stop after I crashed it when I was 21. Said it was too dangerous for someone with responsibilities. He smiled wryly. He was probably right, but I miss it sometimes. That feeling of freedom. You don't feel free now? Do you? The question hung between them. Chioma thought about her life. The constant juggling, the loneliness, the weight of providing for Ada alone. No, she admitted. I don't. Then maybe we're both looking for the same thing. After dinner, Miho insisted on taking them for ice cream, much to Ada's delight. They walked through Itaewon, and Chioma was hyper-aware of how people looked at them. A tall Korean man, a black woman, and a mixed child. Some stares were curious, some disapproving, some just confused. Does it bother you? Miho asked quietly, noticing her noticing. I'm used to it. Seoul isn't exactly known for its diversity. It should be better. A lot of things should be better. They found an ice cream shop, and while Ada deliberated between chocolate and strawberry, eventually choosing both, because I can't pick. They're both too good. Miho and Chioma sat at a small table outside. Thank you, Chioma said, for tonight, for being not what I expected. What did you expect? Honestly, for you to try to impress me with money and power, to treat Ada like an inconvenience, to be the arrogant mafia boss from the movies. I am arrogant, he said with a slight smile, and I definitely have power, but I'm also just a man who saw a beautiful woman at a club and couldn't stop thinking about her. Even after she told you to refresh yourself with someone else? Especially after that. He leaned forward. Chioma, I know this is fast. I know my world is dangerous. But I also know that I've never felt more like myself than when I'm around you. You don't let me hide behind the image. You force me to be real. That sounds exhausting. It's terrifying. But also, the best thing that's happened to me in years. Chioma wanted to respond, but Ada came running back with her ice cream, effectively ending the moment. As they walked back to the car, Ada slipped her hand into Miho's with a casualness that made Chioma's chest ache. Her daughter liked him, really liked him. That was either the best sign or the worst one. When they reached Chioma's apartment building, Miho walked them to the door. Ada hugged him goodbye, actually hugged him, and ran upstairs, leaving the adults alone. So, Miho said, "Still hate me? I never hated you. I hated the situation. And now I'm confused and scared and kind of intrigued despite my better judgment. I'll take that as progress." He stepped closer, and Chioma's breath hitched. "Can I see you again? Just you this time. No cute 7-year-old buffer." "What if I need the buffer? Then you need it. But I think we both know you don't." He was right, damn him. Chioma had faced down racist professors in university, a cheating husband, the entire process of moving to a foreign country alone with a toddler. She wasn't afraid of one man, even if he was a mafia boss, even if he made her heart race in a way she hadn't felt in years. "Friday," she said. "I have a sitter for Ada Friday night. Friday, I'll pick you up at 8. And Miho," she met his eyes, "if you hurt us, if you bring your dangerous world anywhere near my daughter, I will make you regret it." Instead of being offended, he smiled. "I believe you." He brought her hand to his lips, old-fashioned, romantic, and kissed her knuckles gently. "Good night, Chioma from Nigeria. Good night, Kang Miho from Seoul." She watched him drive away, then climbed the stairs to her apartment in a daze. Ada was already in her pajamas, bouncing with excitement. "Mommy, I like him. Can he be your boyfriend?" "It's not that simple, baby." "Why not? He's nice, he's a black belt, and he bought me ice cream. What else do you need? If only life were as simple as a 7-year-old's checklist." Chioma got Ada ready for bed, but as she was about to leave the room, her daughter called out, "Mommy, you look happy. Like before Daddy left happy." Chioma's heart squeezed. "Do I? Yeah. Your smile goes all the way to your eyes now." After Ada fell asleep, Chioma stood on her tiny balcony and looked out at the Seoul skyline. Somewhere out there, Kang Miho was probably going back to his complicated, dangerous life. And she was here, a single mother trying to build a safe, stable world for her daughter. These two things should not mix. But her phone buzzed, and she couldn't help smiling at the message. "Ada is wonderful. You're raising an amazing human. Thank you for letting me into your world, even just for one evening." She typed back, "Don't make me regret it." His response, "I'll do my best. Though I should warn you, I'm much more dangerous when you get to know me." "How so?" "Because then you'll see all the ways I'm completely ordinary. And that's when I'll have you." Chioma laughed despite herself. "Confident much? Always. It's part of my charm." She should have been annoyed, should have been worried. But instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, hopeful. Maybe Kang Miho was dangerous. Maybe his world was dark and complicated. But maybe, just maybe, he was also exactly what she needed to remember what it felt like to be chosen. Not tolerated, not settled for, but actively chosen by someone who saw her clearly and wanted her anyway. Or maybe she was being an idiot who'd watched too many K-dramas. Friday would tell. Until then, she had lesson plans to write, Ada's school lunch to prep, and approximately 1 million reasons to talk herself out of this before she got in too deep. But as she finally went to bed, her last thought before sleep was of Miho's smile when he'd crouched down to Ada's level. The way he'd looked at her daughter like she mattered. The way he'd looked at Chioma like she was the only person in the world. Maybe this was reckless. But God, it felt good to be reckless again.
Besties, in this story we learned that you teach people how to treat you by what you accept, stand your ground, know your worth, and never let anyone, no matter how powerful, make you feel like you're a prize to be claimed rather than a person to be respected. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like,